Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on Conquering Retirement, Northern Alliance Financial. The gentlemen are here. Lance Gilman, the CEO, Peter Hanson, advisor. Guys, it's always nice to be with you. I'm in that mood of, I'm volatile today. So I want to talk volatility.
You're volatile.
If you were in the market, pre-2022, life was good. Everybody was riding the bull market. You were making money if you had it all figured out until 2022. Peter, I want to start with you. What did 2022 teach you?
Well, you're right. The sun was shining kind of since 2000.
On everyone.
2008. Every advisor is a genius because look how much all of their clients are making. And then we have a market downturn like 2022. It showed us that, we were right in the fact that you want to have a plan in preparation for the inevitable. And the inevitable would be a market downturn. As ugly as that is, we're telling our clients, and we were right, that between 55 and 60, around 65, they can expect another 2 to 3 decent-sized market downturns within their lifetime. So within the plan that you have, there has to be preparation for that. There's so much that you can't plan for. You can't plan for a market downturn. You don't know when that's going to happen. But what you can do is you can go ahead and assign how, in fact, you can plan for how you are going to take Social Security. There's ways to capitalize on that. You can make sure that how you are being taxed is beneficial to you and you're not giving your partner, the IRS, more than they need. You can prepare for what size of safety net that you have. And if you are prepared for that inevitable storm, when the storm comes, there shouldn't be too much tweaking to your plan because you've planned for it. The assets that you have in the market shouldn't be in what's called a buy and hold strategy. They should be tactically managed. We're not talking about day trading on a constant basis, but mitigating risk when the market's going down, mitigating that downside. So there's things that you can do to prepare.
But Lance, if we have a lot of people coming into this, they'll say, I need an advisor who can tell me what the market's going to do. I mean, I guarantee you there are people walking in the door and go, can you give me an idea? I mean, have you got a strategy for me? Because I'd like to know what's going to happen this year with my stuff in the market. You hear that, don't you?
Yeah. In fact, that's the irony of the situation. Is people obviously would like to know when the market's going to have a downturn because we can make a lot of money either on an up or a down. It doesn't really matter. But we don't have a crystal ball. We're really good advisors, but we're not magicians and we don't have crystal balls. So the thing about it is when you go into, as Peter mentioned, if the markets are you're going to have 7 to 10 years of upside, and then you're going to have a downturn. Somewhere.
You're saying this just because that's what history tells us all the time.
Historically, this is the way it goes. But we don't know where in that 7 to 10 year window we're going to have that downturn. But the markets are up more than they're down, right? Because we have 7 to 10 years of up, and then we have a down, 7 to 10 years of up, and then a down. The question is, we get a lot of times, Brad, is how long is this down?
Right.
And typically we're talking 14 to 20 months. So again, we're talking months, not years. So we're up more than we're down. And that's why the markets historically have returned about 10% per year over the course of history. So we just got to get through this downturn to get to that next cycle of up.
That's right.
So we get to the strategy point of this. Because everybody wants a strategy, and they would say, oh, okay, if you can't predict me anything, are there any things that you can put me in so that I feel a little safer? Do we look towards annuities at that point, Peter?
Absolutely. Now, a very specific type of annuity. Annuity is kind of almost like a dirty word. If you were to go into Google or, these search engines and you type in annuities, it's going to be probably 2 pages of people telling you not to go into annuities. The annuity that I try to stay away from is more of the variable side. Because if you're going to put your money into a variable annuity, it's exactly like it sounds, variable. It can go up, it can go down. I find the fees in variable annuities to be a little bit too much. Yeah.
Okay.
So we try to stay away from those.
Crazy fees in variable annuities. So again, they can go up, they can go down. Crazy amount of fees. Well, if your funds can go up and go down and you're paying excessive fees, why aren't you just in the market? I mean, why would you be in this product that's going to limit what your options are, number one? And number two, it can go up and go down in excessive fees. So we actually like variable annuities. For the very reason is when we see them, we say, you need to get out of that. And we can help them. get into a better position.
Okay.
But we would never put somebody in a variable annuity. So if you have a variable annuity and you're out there and you're like, I don't know, it looks like I'm gaining and losing and I'm paying these crazy fees, then give us a call and we can help you form a strategy to get out of there and get into what Peter was just saying, which is a fixed annuity.
All right. Tell me about those, Peter, because if you say I'm Googling and everybody's telling me not to do it, I don't look beyond that first Google page.
That's right.
What's the page I need to be on?
If you were to Google, I would go on and type in the catchphrase either hybrid annuity or fixed indexed annuity.
We're not going to Google.
Okay.
You're going to you. The idea is what you said.
That's right.
I've done all of this Google stuff.
Right.
I figured it out. The fixed point ends up being what? Why is this different?
Yeah. Well, fixed and then fixed index. Fixed meaning you have a fixed rate. The benefit means that the money that you put in will never go down due to a market downturn, but it will go up just based on what you have it fixed at. But indexed means it's indexed and or tied to the market. So you can tie it to, let's say, the S&P or a myriad of different indices where when the market goes up, you're going to get a decent return. When the market goes down, you stay where you're at. You don't lose what you put in. Some of these companies are in competition with each other, so they offer bonuses. You don't lose that. When the market goes down, and then you don't lose any of the interest that you earned. There's a catch to everything. They just ask that you keep a portion of this money there for a period of time. But that's why we would never put all of somebody's assets.
This puts you in a zero floor type of situation.
That's right.
Right, you can't lose. And so for somebody that comes in, and especially they're getting ready to retire in another 3 to 5 years, something like that, usually what will come in, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out how they're currently allocated, Brad. I mean, how is your portfolio currently allocated right now? Right? And usually what we use is called a rule of 100. Take somebody's age, you subtract it from 100, and that gives you some value, which is what we call the recommended risk factor.
Okay.
So if somebody's 60 years old, take that, subtract from 100, it's 40. So that's the recommended risk factor. So 40% of the portfolio should be at risk, which means what? 60% should be safe.
That's right.
And so that's where we would say, okay, we would look to maybe some of these fixed products that have no risk, but also competitive rates of return to buffer some of that allocation so that the person is, as we get older, we want to dial back that risk over time. And what I find, I'm sure you found this too, Peter, is that some people just have no idea how they're allocated for risk. They have no idea.
Why? Why do they have no idea?
Well, because,
are they with the wrong broker?
Well, sometimes they're not with any. Sometimes they're just doing it on their own.
DIY.
Yeah, they're DIY, exactly. They're doing it on their own. And it's part of their plan, so they're putting money into their employer plan. They don't really have an advisor that can help them. They're doing it on themselves. And many times what I've found, Brad, is that when they first came in to the company, they were highly aggressive because they were maybe 25 years old. Well, now they're 55, 60 years old. They never changed. And so we got a great amount of risk here. We want to dial that back over time as we're getting, especially as we're getting closer to retirement. When we're in that 3 to 5 year sweet spot, now we want to really kind of dial that back, and we become more protective of our principal.
Yeah.
Because that's what we have to live on for our retirement.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that makes all the advisors at Northern Alliance Financial a little bit different in our approach is the fact that we carry 2 licenses. We carry our life insurance license, which is what you need to be able to sell a fixed index annuity. We also, of course, have our securities license, which is a Series 65 investment advisor representative license. So we're going to be able to do what's best in the best interest of the client appropriately. What you have is sometimes you have people going into a workshop, clients going to a workshop, and it's a insurance license only advisor that's going to be recommending the annuity, but they're tempted to recommend too much of the annuity, too much of the client's money to go into the annuity. But we can actually create that balance because of that dual license.
That's a good point.
We have so much more to talk about, including, I know the author of this book. We have an offer for you. And we're going to talk to the author of this book for you. Conquering Retirement, it's what we all want to do. Do you have a plan, or are you just rocking with the volatility of the market right now? We'll give you this book for free. We'll also give you a complimentary plan assessment for what you need to be in to conquer your retirement. Have you been waiting for something? What are you waiting for? The time is now. Call the number on your screen, free book, free plan, and let us talk you through Conquering Retirement. 877-241-7430. We'll be right back.
Our team at Northern Alliance is very diverse in terms of the services that we offer.
We do take a team-based approach.
We carry multiple licenses so that clients can do everything within the Northern Alliance financial team.
If it has anything to do with retirement, that's what we specialize in.
Budget planning, tax considerations, Social Security strategies, risk management, long-term care, Medicare, health planning, as well as legal and estate planning.
We really are a one-stop shop.
There's Lance Gilman, Peter Hanson, Jeremy Barnard, myself. We do have a staff that is great.
In Maine, we have multiple locations to cover the vast array of the state.
You know, you can come in and have a conversation in person. And a lot of people are looking for these days. Things after COVID have changed to more Zoom, phone call sort of things. And we'll do those things, but we appreciate and would rather have you come in person and have a conversation face to face like this.
We're pretty approachable, and we're going to listen to you. We're going to try to determine what your needs, your aspirations, those goals are, and then we're going to do everything that we possibly can to help you meet those goals.
It's lighthearted, it's carefree. We laugh like crazy. An atmosphere that I don't think is common in a lot of other practices.
We were talking about how well the team is bonding together, how similarly we all think in that what we do, we want to actually make a difference.
Average, everyday people helping average, everyday people.
You know, we truly do put the client first.
Our mantra has been, when you take care of people, people take care of you.
Thanks for joining us on Conquering Retirement with Northern Alliance Financial. Peter and Lance are with us, and I want to defer to Lance because we have an author in our midst. I told you that I knew the author. He's with you today. You know the author who's penned this book, Conquering Retirement, that comes really kind of on a foundation of your military experience. And I always want to say thank you for your service.
Appreciate it.
But because of that, it has brought an analogy of, you know what, I know how to get over some of these obstacles. And it's exactly the same thing that I'm doing through life right now. Tell us about the book and the process of you going through it.
Yes, so the book actually begins on the front lines of Operation Desert Storm. So where all the troops, the coalition forces, as far as the eye could see, or you could see just vehicles painted in desert camo. Waiting for what? Waiting for the engineer divisions to go in and remove the obstacles from the battlefield.
Which is what you were in.
Which is, right. I was an engineer officer in the Army. And so they called the engineer units forward to breach the obstacles that were preventing the combat forces to go forth and conquer and succeed in the battle. And so in a very similar circumstance, the reason that the book was actually written is that there are different obstacles that people face in their retirement. And so what we want to do is identify those risks. And one of the things we were talking about today is market volatility. That's a huge risk, right? And we need to understand the risk, know the risk, understand it, but then we want to take out the risk so that people can be successful in their retirement. And that's how the book transitions.
All right, fantastic. We talked about annuities, Peter, as we started out, and the recommendation of fixed annuities that you had. Talk to me a little bit about, maybe we should say this and continue it with military, tactical wealth management.
Yeah,
Lead me through that.
Yeah, tactical wealth management is an approach in which we're trying to predict what's due to happen, but nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. More so, they're going to mitigate downside when, in fact, the downside in the market is happening. We're talking about volatility. So you always have to be prepared for that inevitable market downturn. I'm not talking about a 1 or 2 day blip. I'm talking about a 2022 or a 2008. So the tactical part comes in preparation for that. So all of the wealth management that we do with our securities license is actually done by our advisors that are actually manipulating the accounts to make sure that it's kind of riding the waves of the good and mitigating the downside on the bad. Doesn't mean that we're day trading, but there is some motions tactically to go ahead and change the result of what is happening.
Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to get a competitive upside, but we also want to protect the downside. Most of our clientele are somewhere between, I would say, 55 and 65,
So
somewhere
you're
in that
you're
window.
in that retirement red zone.
Or in the red zone.
Yeah.
If you canvassed 100 of those clients, you said you want to try to hit it out of the park, knowing that we can, because if that's the case, then we also know as that return is increasing, we're also increasing in what? Risk. And so if we try to hit it out of the park, we know when that downturn comes, and it's going to come every 7 to 10 years or so, we're going to actually get that bulk of that down as well.
That's right.
So, and if we canvass 100 people, say you want to get it a competitive upside and protect the downside, or you want to just try to hit it out of the park knowing we can lose our short. 99 out of 100 of our clients are going to say, no, we want a competitive upside, but we also want to protect the down.
How many of the folks that are coming in, of those people in that range, are walking into your office with a plan? Do most of them have a plan? Do most of them not have a plan?
I would say most do not have a plan.
Yeah.
Or if they have a plan, it definitely needs some adjustment. Their plan, they might think they have a plan because they have a 401k and they're in some target date funds. That to them might be a plan. That's not taking into account their Social Security or their taxes or their estate planning, so they really don't have a plan. So I'd say most don't. Sometimes we have people coming in for a second opinion. Either they have a broker or an advisor, and they figure that they've got a plan. But again, more often than not, their advisor hasn't taken into account whether they are tax efficient, whether or not their Social Security is appropriate, whether or not they're in the right Medicare plan. All that has bearing on their overall plan. So being a holistic advisory firm, we're going to make sure that all of those cogs in that wheel are set appropriately so that their assets can do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, a lot of times people think just because somebody's managing their portfolio that they have a plan.
Yeah.
That's not a plan. That's one slice of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. When you think about it, right? This is like the portfolio itself. But when you talk about comprehensive planning, which is what we do, and it's kind of the hallmark of our firm, actually, is we're looking at the complete picture of a retiree's portfolio, not just the portfolio. That's right. And we're looking at what does their budget look like, both now and in retirement.
That's right.
How about their Social Security? Have they even thought about when they're going to file for their Social Security? Tax considerations, you mentioned.
Yep.
Long-term care, risk management, Medicare when they get there. When they retire from their employer, they're going to need medical. So unless the employer is going to let them carry that for some reason into retirement, most don't. And then the last piece of the puzzle is legal and estate planning. When you look at all of that in totality, Brad, that's a plan. So and that's kind of what distinguishes us from many of the...
I liken it to an engine in a car. You can have a V8 Hemi in your car and think you're going to go everywhere, but that's not going to work if your tire's flat. Doesn't matter if
Good
in
point.
fact the fuel pump isn't going to bring gas to that engine. All of this has to come together so that car can run smoothly. Same thing with your retirement. The assets that you have is that engine, but that's not going to really work if you have substantial debt. You're going uphill in the car. That's not going to work. So all of these things have to come into place. So when Lance is a holistic plan, that's how we're approaching it to make sure everything fits together.
Does this frighten you at all? If most of the people walking into the office don't have a plan, I got a great engine. Oh, I haven't checked the tires. Have you thought about this at some point? Do you have one of those advisors who hasn't talked to you about taxes, hasn't talked to you about Social Security? Maybe it is time for a second opinion. It's definitely time for a plan. How much does that cost you? Absolutely nothing. We'll provide a free, complimentary plan, along with a free book on conquering your retirement. Don't wait any longer. Call the number on your screen, 877-241-7430. Let's conquer it together. We'll be right back.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
So happy you're with us on Conquering Retirement with Northern Alliance Financial. Peter and Lance are with us today. And I started, Peter, beginning of the program as we talked about market volatility, saying, what did we learn? Is there more to learn as we approach the end of 23, enter 2024? What have we learned going through this?
There's always more to learn. One of the things that I think we found in coming out of 2022, I think we touched on this at the beginning of the show, was that we were right about having a comprehensive plan ahead of time, having those fixed buckets within your portfolio that aren't detrimentally affected by a market downturn. A lot of our clients now are favoring a 6-month review rather than an annual review, and we always made that available as well. That's what I'm finding. But more so, I think that it was concrete confirmation for all of us, because we talk on a regular basis, the advisors, that, gosh, the way that we've been approaching it, guys, made complete sense. You want these fixed assets. It's more about asset distribution rather than asset accumulation, right? When someone's working, they're accumulating their assets. We're asset distribution specialists. But you have to make sure that that nest egg is going to stay there, even in the event of let's say, a 2008 market downturn. So it was good confirming endorsement that we can now say, look, we were right, and the clients would confirm.
Some of the greatest lessons come through the struggles, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
We've been through 2022 and know that there's going to be more. We're so grateful that you watch, and so many of you reach out. A lot of you reach out to the point of saying, I only just want to ask a question. I don't really want to let you know who I am or come back to you. Maybe this is the time you go one step further. I want to go to some of the questions that people have brought in. So Diane in Lewiston says, I have a steady stream of income, but given that I recently hit my 73rd birthday, congratulations, Diane, I now need to take RMDs. I want you guys to explain the RMDs. And I'm worried about the tax spike. Any way to avoid this? Lance, I'll start with you.
Avoid it? No, not really. Can't avoid. You're going to have to take those RMDs. There's no question.
And explain those.
So the RMD is just the required minimum distribution, and when they changed the law, the Secure Act 2 was passed in December of last year. They changed the minimum retirement age from 70.5 to 72, then to 73. So you're right, Diane, you do have to start considering taking those distributions. And normally it's right around a 4% benchmark. So it doesn't mean you have to spend the money, though we kind of encourage people to spend the money. You worked hard for that money all your life. Maybe let's have some fun with that money. Do something that you always wanted to do. But you do have to take the money out of that qualified pre-tax account. And when you take that money out, we are going to incur some level of taxation. Now, one way that you could avoid the taxation is if you did something like a qualified charitable distribution, where you could take the money from your RMD and then give it directly to a nonprofit charity of your choice.
That avoids the taxation?
It avoids the taxation. Okay. So that's one way to do it. But we also would encourage you to look at ways that you can spend that money. Again, you worked all your life to get that money and to save that money. Now it's time for that money to work for you.
And had she had some advanced planning, years ago, perhaps, we could have done something, a nice tactic called laddering Roth conversions. So, in which if you get ahead of, all this qualified funds, and you have some years to your life, you can go ahead and convert a lot of this forever tax dollars to never tax dollars, from traditional to Roth, which means you wouldn't have that tax burden. She would have had to have paid it initially, right? You pay the year you do the conversion, you have to pay the taxes that year. But what do we guess? We think taxes are probably going to go up. It would be in her favor to have done some of that.
Planning at 57 might have been better than at 73 kind of
That's
thing.
right.
All right, fair enough. All right, Daniel in Scarborough. Retirement 101 question. Here we go. When people give the general goal for retirement, the 75% to 85% of your working income, is that net or gross? Does it still hold true? Playing numbers here, Peter.
I would say that's gross, is what you want to take into account. And it's really based on lifestyle and goals within healthcare costs. So I think she's got the numbers a little bit off, but I think you want to plan on keeping about 55% of your working income in retirement to keep the lifestyle going, given that perhaps your lifestyle expenses will change. Had you done everything right, you've eliminated debt, you're not going to have those expenses anymore.
You're saying 55 is better than the numbers that are working here, 75 to 85?
Depending on whether or not they've pared down their debt. So if they are down to a basically operational need, then really they are down to probably 50-55%. You're talking about if you don't have a mortgage, you don't have a car payment, you have zero debt whatsoever, now you're just talking about operational costs. So that's keeping the food on the table, the heat, basic necessities, and most people can do that on 50-55%.
If all the planning has been done ahead of time, right? Yeah.
And again, they're down to no debt and just to an operational need.
Okay, I'm wondering whether we can get one more in. Let's go quick. Susan in Kennebunk. Seeing my parents struggle in retirement, my spouse and I, we've decided to save at least 20% of our income for retirement, but 15 years left to work. Are we overdoing it? Simple answer?
I like a 10% minimum. The fact that they're able to go with 20%, I think they're great.
You're saying if you can do that,
if you can,
go ahead and do it.
Absolutely. The more you can put away, the better. As long as you're not scrimping on your lifestyle, right? I mean, we don't want people to live, ramen noodles and peanut butter, for all their working years so that they can enjoy a retirement. Because what we find, and we see people like this, is that they don't know how to spend money when that time comes. We've had clients come in and they've got more money than they need, but they just live such a frugal lifestyle to get to that point that they have trouble spending their assets. So that's an opposite problem, a good problem to have, but we've come across people where we have to kind of educate them. Okay, you've done this. You got another 30 years to your retirement. Enjoy it. Live it. Let us show you how.
Yeah, good point.
We've run out of time. Thanks so much for the insight. Market volatility, let's calm it down. How about a book? How about a plan? Call us now. Don't wait. Thanks for joining us. 877-241-7430. Get a plan. Let's conquer retirement together. We'll see you next time.